Here's people.
Join the conversation. We have seen this movie before. We know that it doesn't end well.
Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, and people tuning in, chiming in over on those methods already, including Ida Beza Gardner with the hi and the wave, and Amber Banda with the alert there. Yes, about the only, okay, not saying that the Amber Alerts are unacceptable, but the only non-regionalized Amber Alert that I'm particularly in favor of or want to hear in any case here. And a lot more conversation, other postings going online, dropping those likes and reacts that we certainly appreciate, including RJ, Amber, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. A lot to delve into here as we're technically through the week, even though it feels like a Tuesday barely. And that's part of the spirit that we'll be keeping today, as we are going to be joined in our interview today with Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., is that we are usually most first Tuesdays of the month, but holidays and things and such intervening. We'll be talking about that today, some of their in-depth and unique reporting in our area, but plenty of other things to talk about even outside of their most recent edition, including responses and counter responses, filings, news conferences, releases, all the things. It's looking like to be becoming a messy case whenever it comes to that city water park toddler drowning case that has resulted, among other things, a lawsuit against the city, and now, most recently, yes, it is Wednesday. It better be Wednesday. I hope it's Wednesday. If it's not Wednesday, I have a lot of other problems that I'm going to need to deal with in my life. So it is Wednesday. Did I put in the announcement post that it was something else? Because I don't think I'm that messed up. Let's double check here for just a second, because if I'm that out of it, then, well, it'll be an interesting show. Let's just put it that way. But so we are talking about it. Yes, usually most first Tuesdays of the month, but again, doing it Wednesday this time alone, again, feels like a Tuesday. Ida Beza Gardner throwing me for a loop. I did mention that it feels like a Tuesday. It better be Wednesday. Let's just put it that way. In any case, again, the back and forth on the now charges that have resulted against the mother of a toddler who drowned after, or died after water and issues, died at the hospital, involving a city water park. And so a news conference from the district attorney for our area, among other things, but talk further about that. Some more things. If you thought the DMV was bad right now, I mean, yes, it's DPS in our area, but universally DMV conjures up the ideas of hours wasted of life, and well, at least they're canceling some, even though it's for not a great reason in the state of Texas right now. But also some interesting things, some blast from the past, frankly, before my time, at least before I was reporting on things, as there is some sentences being completed and looking for a reinstatement from some previous elected officials and corruption issues. So call it blast from the past in that way. And so right on that first story, RJ saying, I think Hicks has a big hill to climb to prove criminal negligence and purposely neglecting the child. So that referring to, again, the case involving the toddler that drowned, or it died in the hospital after having issues in the water near drowning, whatever the correct technical phrase is for that in the medical sense, but died in the hospital after what happened at the Camp Cohen, the city water park on the site of the former Cohen State, Northeast El Paso, kind of in general, is the way I would put it here. And though there's been a lot of back and forth even since yesterday. So headline that came out yesterday was, of course, and all of this coming from our news partners at KFOX 14, that there was an extradition that had been, an arrest and extradition that had been sought by El Paso officials, the police department in this case, of course, for the mother in that case, of Jessica Weaver, over the death of her son, Anthony Leo Malave. And so the lawyer in this case sitting back. There's a lot of questions about this because even prior to this, there was a $1 million lawsuit against the city, Destination El Paso, and the operator of the water park in this case here. So again, according to our news partners at KFOX 14, Ryan McLeod, representing Jessica Weaver, spoke about his client being charged, and the client being charged with injury to a child, was taken into custody for extradition, apparently still in Indiana, at least at the moment, did waive an extradition hearing, but still in jail in there. And so the lawyer said neither he nor his client knew about the El Paso district attorney that would pursue criminal charges until law enforcement officials went to her house in Indiana and claimed she was a, quote, fugitive from justice, McLeod stated in a press release. And according to police documents, El Paso Police Department investigators believe the toddler's death is a result of Weaver's failure to care for her child. So there is a lot of details and, again, back and forth on this. So specifically from the district attorney's office and their decision to pursue charges and then dealing with all of those further things, what the district attorney for El Paso, Bill Hicks, said in a news conference that our news partners at KFOX 14 read, and they do have the video up on there, particularly with some of the comments and questions coming along with it, did say, quote, there are numerous witnesses that have come forward and have given their account that they were at the park, that they were watching, and they saw her not paying attention to her child. It's posted in numerous places over the water park that any child younger than 6 years old needs to be attended at the park, and she wasn't doing that. A lifeguard is not a babysitter. They are a last resort in hopefully saving a life. End quotes there again from Hicks. So, I mean, I still feel deferential, even in just a kind of reflective way and reflexive way towards anyone who has experienced the death of a child here. But the, for lack of a better term, drama does feel to keep ratcheting up in this case. And also the attorney, again, for the mother in this case, responding further to that news conference by the district attorney for El Paso, saying further, again, according to our news partners at KFOX 14, what that Hicks failed to mention was that children drown all the time at private pools, apartment pools, where there are no lifeguards and the parents are not charged. So, and specifically responding back with the full statement from the Webster, Vicknair, McLeod law firm, and it's only about a couple of pages, and the bond for the client in this case at $100,000. But the lawyer in the statement said that the DA should be pursuing charges against the 17 lifeguards who were present on the site at the time. So this is getting quite messy, is it kind of from my outside perspective on it here, as much as simple resolution or conclusion was not particularly going to be possible. I feel like in this case, it's not getting any less messy. And it seems like we're on that kind of a trajectory. And okay, I'm not going to quite call it accusations and then counter accusations, but again, it does keep feeling like it's being ramped up in this case. But a few other things going on in the community, including the FBI being one of the lead agencies involved in another stash house bust in our area. That 6 were in the Sparks area of El Paso County with the El Paso FBI, but also, of course, assisted by Border Patrol and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Our news partners at KFOX 14 have the details on that. And yeah, just that note, if y'all had any DMV appointments or were looking at any, there was that note about them being canceled, all appointments being canceled as of today due to a, quote, ongoing upgrade, which is a interesting one. So hopefully she'll be back on. Was planned initially until noon. So yeah, as much as the DMV is totally a fun place to be, or again, DPS here in Texas, but getting your license renewed, I'll just say there was one time where I was on like my 10-year renewal, which I've had to deal with already. So couldn't just do it online, and or there's some other reason. I can't remember exactly what, but boy, was that not fun having to, and I didn't realize that you could pre-plan your appointments now. That would have saved me time of my life that I will never get back. But a lot of other things going on in and around our area that we'll continue talking about, but already do for this first break of this hour right now. So we also have Sean Gardner wishing or give salutations with a howdy to Andrew and everyone else there in the comments. So we'll, of course, talk more about those and get to more of the comments, among other things. But taking that first break of this hour right now, coming back, going to be talking with Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., about some of their in-depth and ongoing stories, including other bits of prosecution. We teased it a bit yesterday on the cost of the Walmart case defense. specifically, but then also some other movements going on around the area, including some building changes, reopenings, rechanges, UTEP accredited. There's a lot to get into here, folks. So we're talking with them about their in-depth reporting on that. But in the meantime, stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines a little bit later, as per usual. But in the meantime, a whole lot more going on and affecting us here in the borderland at this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. Texas Mutual Insurance Company bringing their WorkSafe Texas Summit to the El Paso area this month, Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte. The 2.5-hour free event does include a free breakfast and parking validation also provided. So get the chance to go there and see the safety and compliance information there that will be helping employers protect their workers. 2 interactive Q&A sessions specifically, including OSHA information panel and workplace safety panel discussions that'll also provide helpful resources and safety materials and the opportunity to network with other business owners and safety professionals. Space is limited, so make sure to register by September 12th. Coming up here, folks, at texasmutual.com/summit. That's texasmutual.com/summit. Again, Texas Mutual Insurance Company, their WorkSafe Texas Summit, Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier injury accident reported southbound Mesa at Osborne. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound Vinton down to Thorne. That's probably the longest delays in the valley right now, 10-minute delays. Watch for some slowing I-10 eastbound Piedras over to Reynolds through the Spaghetti Bowl. It's less than a 5-minute delay. And it's a 9-minute delay eastbound Montana from McRae to Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Texas Department of Transportation. Whether you're from the great state of Texas or just passing through, remember to do your part to keep Texas roads clean. That means keeping your trash until you find a trash can. Remember, don't mess with Texas means don't litter. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain.
But we don't speak Spanish.
So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks. Babbel's conversational method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish.
Estoy muy emocionado para ir a España contigo.
Aw, he just said, I'm very excited to go to Spain with you. Nos vamos a divertir mucho.
And that means we're going to have a lot of fun.
Sí. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
I heard about something called the Affordable Connectivity Program. It helps people save money on internet.
I don't have the internet, but I'd like to.
You should apply to see if you're eligible. You could save $30 a month.
Sign up, connect, and save at getinternet.gov.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Think identity theft won't happen to you? Think again. There's a new victim every 3 seconds in the U.S., over 15 million this year alone, and many don't even know they're victims. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you could miss, even when you monitor your credit. If your identity is stolen, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us, add your 2 cents, as we do have Edgar Ortiz letting us know that he's on board, and I'm a little bit concerned for RJ, saying, I love the DPS. There was a couple of weeks ago and had a really great time. I hope you're doing all right, my dude, because that's just a whole lot of red flags for me myself. I mean, if you got nothing better to do, I still think that would be better to do than being there. But okay, if that's the way you spend your time, I remind me not to accept a lunch invitation. Anyway, we do have a lot of stuff we're talking about here, including, it's one thing I teased also there we'll be talking about when we come back, but from this interview about recall efforts. Don't want to bear that one too deep. But in the meantime, we are, of course, having on, as we do usually at the start of the month, Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc. Again, usually first Tuesdays of the month, but given the way the weeks worked out and the holidays this week, we're doing this on Wednesday. So it is Wednesday, but it feels like a Tuesday, in case anyone was still confused about that one. So Robbie, thank you for joining us here.
Whatever the day, it's good to be here.
Absolutely happy to have you on. And so a lot of things to be talked about here, a lot of things that are going on even as more news is coming in. So speaking of legal cases, one of the biggest questions that has still been, as much as gag orders have been a focus of both local and state level efforts right now, because we're not ignoring it. There's just a whole lot of like the courtroom drama and things developing when it comes to the state house right now with the impeachment trial. There are a lot of other updates coming out of that we'll be touching on as more substantive things happen. But there has been, and one of the reasons not too much has been said before time, except outside of like outside analysis and not from any of the participants, has been a gag order in the place when it comes to in the Texas legislature, in the Texas Capitol. Very similar situation when it comes to the state level prosecution for the August 3rd Cielo Vista Walmart shooter. Again, the federal trial, again, just for anyone confused about this, has now come to its conclusion with the consecutive life sentences. Again, very important to me anyway, is the fact that that person will never breathe a free breath of air again in the rest of their life.
Consecutive life sentences.
But then the question is, how long will that be then? Besides the consecutive part of it, how long will the whole natural life be? Because the state part of it, basically its reason for still even continuing at this point is that potential of the death penalty. So there have been a lot of questions, but there's been that gag order that's been in place from, I believe you all do, as you're in your most recent edition, talk about that the 409th Judicial District Judge Sam Medrano still in place, involving, among other things, the whole kerfuffle over the previous district attorney.
Right. So the question we wanted to look into was how much will it cost to pursue the state case? And like you said, a gag order is still in place. So it is hard to come by information at this time, and how high costs may go at this point is still speculation. But we did talk to Joe Spencer, who's the defense lawyer of the Walmart gunman.
Yeah, he's the lead attorney and the team that has been being assembled there. Some things, mostly through court filings, have been able to be somewhat divined from this, but it's pretty sparse.
Right, you can glean some hints at it. I mean, we wanted to get his take on how much this could cost. So I'll just read you here one of his quotes. He said, "It will be impossible to quantify the cost, factoring in the length of the trial, the massive discovery," which he said is actually still underway, and the possibility of decades of appeals that will seemingly never bring judicial finality in my lifetime, as long as the state seeks the death penalty for political gain, which it seems is what every state administration has done. There is a reason the federal government chose not to seek the death penalty. So at that point, we went to the El Paso district attorney to get his response to this idea that he's pursuing the death penalty just for political gain,
purposes,
political purposes. And Bill Hicks, the El Paso DA, defended his decision not to take the death penalty off the table. He said repeatedly and explained repeatedly that his reason for doing that is it should be an El Paso jury that has an opportunity to decide whether the gunman faces the death penalty or not.
And he's been pretty consistent about that. And again, not a whole lot more that can be delved into from the responses and just the reasoning behind it. Because again, gag order, and again, would fully recommend, as my non-attorney opinion, but having not exactly stared down the barrel of a judge's ire, but close enough for comfort, which was way too close as it was. You don't mess with those kind of orders coming from a judge, except very much at your peril. So with that being in place and affecting, of course, the whole conversation. And one of the reasons that during the federal trial, that was some of the most response we had seen or heard from, particularly, the families, victims, etc. And so the getting into those answers of what is the cost so far is a little difficult.
So to get into the numbers a little bit here, the judge appointed Spencer, the defense attorney, to defend the gunman in 2020. The order states that Spencer would be paid $195 per hour, which is the maximum rate for death penalty cases in the Western District of Texas.
Okay.
Also, you can look at the cost of the incarceration of the gunman at the El Paso County Detention Facility, which we've been told is $101. I don't know why it's $101, but $101 a day. And as far as the El Paso DA goes, what Bill Hicks told us is his office is using a multi-million-dollar state grant to pay much of its prosecution. He said, over 95% of the preparation would be funded by the state grant, which is a multi-million-dollar grant.
Okay, so, and I think it was along the lines of about $3 million or so is what's come up recently. So, I mean, those are all important aspects of this, again, and the way that we ended up getting there. So that $101 a day, that sounds about reasonable, or maybe not reasonable, but in line with what I would expect, because recent years when it's coming county commissioners court, some back and forth about the cost of housing people, be they either defendants or those convicted and serving sentences, particularly within the El Paso County system, was, I want to say, and this was like 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 years ago at this point, was about like $70 a day at that point in time. So with increasing costs and inflation, all that kind of stuff, that sounds about it, though I'm sure there's some further beyond, just kind of general population considerations when it comes to, again, this particular individual.
Yeah, and really at this point, it's more questions than answers. Like the big question here also is a date for the state trial has not been set yet. So that'll obviously have an impact of what the impact this has, not just in terms of monetary, but also there's the time and also the emotional impact.
And I will say that one thing that you all do report on is that some of the items that have to be addressed as part of this were the letters, among other things, sent out by the previous district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, and Spencer did respond to those, calling them, among other things, the accusations of the cost and the plans to delay outrageous.
So she left after quite a few controversies. So he dismissed her allegations offhand. She had made an argument that the defense was delaying things as a tactic to increase the cost, but he dismissed that.
Yeah, so that $101 a day as part of the immediate cost of it, and just in case anyone is confused about then the other part of it, that per hour, that is spent actively working on the case, not every hour that passes until it comes to to Spencer's and any of his team's fees on this.
Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, just because I know that this to make that perfectly clear. So you do come down to a figure, at least the best kind of reckoning that y'all can do, right? When it comes to the estimations of the cost so far?
Well, it's hard to come up with a total figure. I mean, we can get a sense of the per hour, we can get a sense of how much the incarceration is, we can get Spencer's take on this, but I mean, adding it up, it's just in part going to depend on when the state trial happens. And what Joe Spencer told us is, they're still waiting to complete discovery and such in this case that has really dragged on.
Yeah, it has. So, I mean, minimum, even without counting attorney's fees and those kind of things, would be at least from the detention, the incarceration part of it, about $150,000. Though,
well,
again,
that's just the incarceration. I mean, the rest of it's millions. I mean, you look at the DA grant that they have; it's in the millions. And I couldn't. I mean, I wouldn't want to pretend to put a firm specific number on it, but it'll be pricey.
So those are some of the expectations there, because again, as we continue to progress through this, there are still the major question mark that'll, of course, impact the idea of doing any final calculations of when it will even go to trial, and then what the process but then even then, just with the idea of if there were to be a guilty verdict and a affirmation of the death penalty in this case, that it would therefore, I mean, okay, having seen and studied a few death penalty cases myself over the years, the series of appeals and moving up through and occasionally ending up all the way some of the highest courts of the land, that takes quite a long time. So this could, in that way, even after a trial, continue to drag on.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We're going to be talking about this probably for a very long time.
But even then, the biggest question mark is when it will even go to trial again, 2024 or 2025, some of those potentials here. But that's just one of the things that is going on that you are looking into. Some other things involving buildings in El Paso. I mean, there's been a lot of crane watch, or at the very least, bulldozer watch to be happening around our area, but a couple of immediate shifts that are going on with two fairly either prominent, important, however you want to go about it, buildings in El Paso, including, just from your most recent one about who's buying the Helen of Troy headquarters, and also what's going on with the Alhambra Theater, now with Abundant Living Faith Center, former Tricky Falls downtown.
Yeah, so actually, I think we discussed this on the radio. It was about a year ago that we reported on this, that Helen of Troy was exploring the possibility of selling its big headquarters out on the west side. Now, just as a reminder, this is the only publicly traded company headquartered in El Paso and the global retail giant behind Osprey Packs, Hydro Flask, Curlsmiths, Vicks, OXO brands. They're better known by their brand names than Helen of Troy.
Yeah.
But last week we learned that the company has entered into a contract with a buyer. So it is moving forward to sell that headquarters building on the west side as well as the warehouse. It also announced that it would consolidate its beauty business segment, which is managed from El Paso, as well as Irvine, California, and move it to Boston.
So then that leads to the question that immediately came up for me of, so is it no longer going to be headquartered in El Paso, or what does that end up meaning?
Certainly does raise that question, particularly as the company moves forward with this downsizing effort. But the company did emphasize to us that it does not have plans to move its headquarters. So what will remain in El Paso? The company said its senior legal, finance, tax, treasury, human resources, and IT operations. So all those sort of shared resources that the company has will remain here. But certainly it's, as well as a couple of the executives. But certainly its presence has shrunk here in El Paso.
And then I don't know if this is one that you can fairly answer or not, but one of the biggest questions that has been in my life, or at least been coming to me in my life, is what about their outlet and their immediate, discount section?
Oh, I can't answer that one. No, it's not coming back. I know it was popular. And what I was told at the time is that, they have agreements with retailers like Target where you can go there and buy their OXO brands and such. And I don't think they were all happy about the fact that they were selling them direct to the customer at a discount, as well as the fact that they needed to staff that. So, well, I loved going there and finding great deals on kitchen gadgets and humidifiers. It's not coming back.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's definitely been one of the questions that's been around there. And then just again, briefly, the you had the preview in even before last edition, if people were looking online about the former Alhambra Theater and former Tricky Falls now being the latest campus for Abundant Living and the Abundant Church hosting the tour last week of that revamped space, turning it into. I mean, honestly, I was surprised by how similar it looked from the way it did previously, and being a performance space just with I'm just going to say less beer soaked.
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly it's an interesting addition to downtown. I mean, Abundant Church is the largest non-denominational church in El Paso. They have the location on the east side and west side, and they held services for the first time in downtown on Sunday. And they've owned that building now for 4 years.
Right.
I think that project was slowed, like many others, by the pandemic, and it was really a restoration project. So, like you said, they restored a lot of that theater back to the way it was. I mean, for kind of background here, I mean, it was designed by famed architecture firm Trost and Trost back in 1914. So there's a lot of history in that building.
Oh, absolutely. And went to at least a couple of performances myself during, again, its previous life. Hadn't had a chance to go back there now, as it is now the religious center that it is, though, again, that being, I mean, even like, the leadership of the church calling for itself to be a beacon and a gathering point in its own right. So see how that one continues to work out. Yeah, I will say I was kind of wondering, like, so what's happening with that building before then finally finishing it up and getting ready for it, which, again, I don't begrudge them, though. Again, do miss the concert venue. But in any case, again, that's one of the things you'll have recently in there, but a lot more that we'll be talking about here. Got to take that next break right now. Again, joining us here in studio is Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc, as we usually do at the start of months. It hasn't been terrifically just on the first Tuesdays of months in most recent weeks, or recent months, but trying to get as close to it as we can. So talking more about that and a whole lot more about some of their other reporting after we take this next break. Again, you're tuned into Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll get to those phone lines here in just a bit, but in the meantime, we'll talk with Robbie and more of the stories after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Ruli's International Kitchen, just a great little gourmet dive, and if I may say, much more than that, featured locally and nationally in terms of their cuisine and what they offer. Always new features at the front door. It's one of the first things I look for every time I walk in there to see what new things, new stuff they're working on, and their new features. Revamping some of the menu there as well, so take a look to see if you got new or returning favorites or something that could become your next favorite with those local familiar flavors plus international inspirations. You can, of course, find them not too far down the street from our station here, 4176 North Mesa, not too far from Mesa and Executive or Executive and I-10. Give them a call at 915-313-4806, 915-313-4806 to make your reservation for that everyday occasion or those special celebrations. But again, all their details, everything, including their social media clearinghouse for that online at rulisik.com. That's rulisik.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki. The lawyer for the mother of the 3-year-old who drowned at an El Paso water park in May said that the El Paso district attorney should be prosecuting the lifeguards in connection to the death of the boy rather than the mother. Ryan McLeod, who's representing Jessica Weaver, the mother of the boy, spoke about his client being charged. Weaver's right now being charged with injury to a child. She was taken into custody for extradition on August 30th in Indiana. All appointments at driver's license offices across the state have been canceled today due to a software outage. The Texas Department of Public Safety says it's part of an ongoing system upgrade that happened over Labor Day. Anyone with appointments on Wednesday will have to reschedule for another day. The license system outage is the second large-scale failure to affect the agency in 2 weeks. Tickets for the iconic Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl are now on sale. It's happening December 29th with the game kickoff set for 12 p.m. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl is one of the longest-standing traditions in college football, dating back to 1935. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
No crashes on your borderland freeways right now, but a lot of slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound. 25-minute delays from Vinton down to Thorn. Vinton down to Red, only one lane of traffic, and westbound on the 10, same story, one lane of traffic from Red up to Vinton. Heavy road construction in that area. I-10 eastbound, look for some road debris off to the right at Executive Center Boulevard. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The heat rolls on as we move through the end of the week. Partly cloudy skies for our Thursday, high around 103 degrees. Partly cloudy skies for your Friday, high around 102. As we look at your Saturday, partly cloudy with a high around 101. The good news is, as we look ahead to next week, by Tuesday into Wednesday, we could see highs in the upper 80s to lower 90s. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by turntosupportstx.org.
No one gets me. I can't take this. Where's home tonight? Hope mom's okay.
Life can take a turn for anyone. So remember, there are always people, places, and activities for you to turn to. Learn more about mental health at turntosupportstx.org.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. hims.com/radio.
El Paso Children's Hospital is the region's pioneer in neurosurgery and cranial and facial care for children. The legacy of world-class healthcare is led by our powerhouse team of pediatric surgeons, Dr. David Yates and Dr. Zayad Makushi. For more information, visit elpasochildrens.org.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Want to say big on custom photo
ProWood blinds, shutters, cellular shades, and more? Shop Blindster today and save up to 50% over comparable blinds from brick and mortar stores. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, being on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. For the most part, really all you need to know is whatever you can do to see us, hear us, participate to the level that you want to. That's the right place for you to be as we continue talking about the things affecting us here in the borderland and just having the opportunity to do so. So to that point here, phone lines here in just a bit. But again, continuing on with our conversation with Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., joining us as we do starts of most months, give or take a couple of days or so. There's a couple of comments coming in, including Marco from Mayor over on the YouTube joining us there. Welcome. As well as Renato Rivera on the whole concept of particularly just the case involving the Walmart case. Him saying don't see death penalty case, a life sentence with no chance of parole, and then some allusions to what actions could be taken. Let's refer to it extrajudicially by other inmates. Again, full comments up on screen for those over on our social media because different things apply there. But I will say that the viability of the case or not, I mean, just we were talking about it, that the sticking point of the death penalty specifically, I mean, is the lightning rod at the very least in some of the legal preparation, but we'll keep our eye on that one. But in the meantime, some other things, some other, I guess, technically legal situations, though it's more of a technical nature. One of the ones that kind of came as a surprise a little bit earlier this year and just kind of raised a lot of eyebrows, like, wait, what? Was the fact that UTEP's accreditation had any question about its continuing or not here, and that's why UTEP, among other things, is y'all reporting on, now reporting back to those accreditors.
Yeah, so we checked in with UTEP because back in June, UTEP's accreditor put the university on a warning status.
Right.
And UTEP responded saying it was basically an issue of clerical errors, that it was sort of just more a reporting issue than any actual issue
Sure.
at the university. So we wanted to check in again and see how things were going. So we talked to John Wiebe, the UTEP provost, to get an update. And he told us the university had prepared a report to address the issues that it would send to the accreditor, and it would be submitting it this week. So that's the latest move on that front.
Okay, so again, I just, at least for me, anytime that questions about accreditation come up, I did way too much back in the day on like Anamark colleges and some of the for-profit colleges. Now, I'm not trying to put any illusions that UTEP is anywhere near that same status, but it couldn't, I'm not going to call it like, a Vietnam level flashback, but just kind of a, wait, what? We're in any near realm? So that was, I think, has also came a shock to many. So the fact that UTEP is planning to robustly respond to this, probably a pretty important thing.
Well, I mean, accreditation is needed to, for instance, get federal loans, and it has a significant impact on students as well as the university, which is why I think there's been focus on it. But what Wiebe said is that he has, quote, no doubt that we will maintain our accredited status, and I think that the report that we will submit will satisfy the questions that have been asked.
So, I mean, again, the clerical error is the part of the way they're kind of describing it here is, let's just hope that it does stop there. That's certainly my hope on that one.
I mean, in the meantime, the other aspect of this story is as another semester gets underway here, UTEP said it anticipates it will have its largest ever incoming freshman class.
And kind of affecting UTEP a little bit more broadly from the state has been about a tuition freeze that's in place for the couple of years coming and affecting much of the UT system. But so I would say there may be some impacts from that, even if maybe not all the decisions were able to be made before that announcement came out, may affect these upcoming semesters as well.
Well, that certainly runs counter to sort of the national narrative at universities where there's been a lot of concerns about rising costs of tuition. So that also was a bit counter to the narrative to see them freeze tuition like that for a couple of years.
Yeah, certainly important. One thing that has not been frozen, or hopefully will be coming down, is certainly the gas prices in El Paso. And so, been a lot of reporting on this. We certainly talked about it also in some of the technical aspects, the EPA waiver about basically summer versus winter gas that I guess has some ease of production that comes along with it. And y'all take those questions sometimes about kind of what's going on with this issue, and y'all responding to that and doing your own look deeper into it, and similar types of answers about basically a lack of availability, at least in recent times, though kind of it was a little bit more of a broader question, I would say, that was given to y'all about why are prices usually higher out this way.
Right. So through our inquiries platform, you can go to elpasoinc.com, and readers go there and they just submit questions.
Sure.
So for whatever reason, as I've said, we always get a lot that involve roads and driving.
Sure.
So whether it's the condition of roads or the price of gasoline, we hear that a lot. And so we started getting a lot of questions about this issue. And, we had heard it from folks that, on certain days had gone to like 4 different gas stations and couldn't find gas, which is certainly unusual. So
yeah,
we did dig into it a bit to try to get at what some of the causes were, both the price increases and the shortage. And what it comes down to, and what we were told, is there were unplanned outages at 2 refineries. So there's the Marathon Petroleum Refinery in El Paso, as well as an Alon Big Spring refinery. And those unplanned outages created some shortages. And then you had the hurricane on the East Coast, which led to some further outages there. And so you ended up with a shortage.
Yeah. And so the fact that there was, again, that waiver request at the end of last month, EPA did go with it. And again, basically the difference between, summer and winter gas when it comes to the volatility of itself is
when
important.
you look at the price issue, I mean, we've actually done that story, I think, every year for like the past 3 years, because always around this time, around Labor Day, you see some of the highest gas prices, and it causes people to ask, why is El Paso's gas prices always among the highest in Texas among cities? And it's true. We went to AAA, the car club, and got the list. And yes, indeed, over Labor Day weekend, El Paso did lead the pack among cities for gas prices, and didn't get sort of a detailed answer on why that might be. But some of the causes people point to is our geographic isolation.
Sure.
That's one of the causes here. And the other question we wanted to know, so we went to Tom Fullerton, an economist at UTEP. So will this have any broader impacts? I mean, is this just going to hit our wallets, or is there sort of a broader economic impact here? And his take was that the high gas prices have yet to have a broader impact on the El Paso economy. I mean, he couldn't make any concrete predictions, but
sure,
as of Labor Day, it wasn't anything that was being a broader drag on the economy besides the pain that we were all feeling in our wallets.
I mean, it's not fun to fill up at the pump, but as opposed to seeing therefore jumps in, all the downstream things, so to speak, anything that requiring transportation or further manufacturing, those kind of things. At least not at the moment anyway. It'd be trends continue. That would be one thing.
Yeah. And this is something that has probably in a year from now, when Labor Day rolls around, we'll be looking at this question again, I have a feeling.
Yeah, that sounds fairly reasonable. So, and just in terms of also, a lot of roadway and things projects, I got to say that, y'all have been and are working on some stories involving some of the crane watch, as y'all often do around our area. But it just seems like there's been a lot of either road work or things being demolished in our area. Not too far down the street from us, we have the now completely former Luby's site that is now flattened to make way for latest that I've heard on that one is going to be a large gas station, but also maybe a eatery, but smaller in scope, kind of combination thing there. We've seen a few others being demolished, former restaurants, etc., kind of around this area. And there's other major construction, including going on, and this is the one y'all be looking more at, with El Paso Water, among other things, right?
Yeah, so there is an actual crane there for crane watch.
There is.
I commute by it every morning, and if anyone's been out there by Fountains at Farah, over by Hawkins, they'll see the tilt-up panels going up the big crane, and that's part of El Paso Water has outgrown its headquarters there.
Yeah.
And that's part of their construction to deal with that issue. But we're getting more answers on exactly what the costs are associated with that, and what the plan is. So look out for that in the future.
Absolutely. And one other one that you all are looking at and working on, or I've been talking about, is particularly when it comes to a site that has been, it was always a little bit difficult to access, and then with all the construction in recent years, it got a little bit more difficult. But at La Hacienda down by the river, it's also had a lot of border issues, barriers popping up around it. It's just a lot of things going on with it. And so there's actually a new group that is looking to completely revamp the site, among other things.
Yeah, so there have been a number of owners and attempts to do something with that site. It's right up against the border, as you said. But I mean, its history goes back. I mean, it is one of the oldest sites in El Paso in terms of its history. And at this point, it's now owned by a nonprofit called Ibarra, and it is planning to move forward with renovations to the hacienda, the old restaurant, as well as some other portions of the property, although not the old Fort Bliss site.
No, sure. Which are some of those apartments that are right nearby it that are in that semi-military style. I mean, they're very similar, and if you know what to look for, they definitely stick out along much of the other construction that has existed along that strip down there by Zana right before you hit Spur 1966 and the UTEP overpass.
Right. So their redevelopment plans for this site include a cafe and cantina at the old hacienda, a venue space, a marketplace, guest houses, meditative gardens and outdoor spaces, a chapel, and cultural arts spaces. So what they imagine doing is leading sort of listening tours for people that are interested in learning more about the history of that site, the history of the border, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so a lot of development, redevelopment, reconstruction going on around town, and that's, I guess, a part of it. So
it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, but we do our level best. And again, joining us here in studio has been Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., as we have, again, most starts of the month, but best broad way to put it right now. So do appreciate you coming in as we, again, do most starts of the month to talk about the reporting y'all got coming up and the in-depth reporting you got in some of your most recent editions.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And so with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now and go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the program. So if you're wanting to come in on the phone and add your 2 cents, that number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Hammer and Nails, one of El Paso's newest men's grooming destinations and ones that I've been very excited to get the opportunity to go to. We'll be getting that next set of our giveaways coming up here shortly, so be sure to stay tuned for that, primarily over on our social media, though. When we're doing the giveaway, we'll certainly announce it on air, but that'll give you the sneak preview because you don't want to miss out on their opportunity for their services. Literally head-to-toe coverage. Hair, beard cut and trims. That's what I definitely take the advantage of, but also literally down all the way to the feet with their manicure, pedicure services. They've got, skin treatments, a whole lot of things that can keep you looking and feeling great. And that's what I take advantage of them for. And we'll be doing that giveaway. And if you feel you want to make your appointment, you can do so just about any time, day or night, by going over to hammerandnailsgrooming.com. Real easy to make their appointment. You can then finish the appointment and have it happen during their regular business hours. But their website always available to make that appointment. Again, hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammerandnailsgrooming.com. Find them there, make your appointment, and get those great services. I'll see you there.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No crashes on your borderland freeways. Accident-free right now. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound, Vinton down to Thorne, 15-minute delays. The connector ramp on I-10 westbound at Trans Mountain still closed for road work onto the I-10 eastbound. 17-minute delays eastbound Montana from McRae out to Zaragoza. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 5-star reviews and an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-616-1997. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-616-1997. That's 800-616-1997. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
What does the Affordable Connectivity Program sound like? It sounds like a student doing their homework online.
If X equals 4.
Eligible households save $30 a month on internet. Like the sound of that? The ACP. Sign up, connect, and save at getinternet.gov.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Right now at Lowe's, buy one, get one 50% off on select interior and exterior paints and exterior stains via Lowe's gift card rebate. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 9/6. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details while supplies last.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly at this point during the show. We do have those phone lines open and available right now. Again, that number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A little bit too close to the end of the hour for this particular time, so if you're on the line, stay there. But again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents on the many things we're discussing today, which, by the way, I'll probably talk about it right at the top of next hour, but I'm aware of a recall effort that has been, at the very least, announced, got released in the inbox. Willing to talk about that when it comes to a recall for a city rep. So I'll mention that right at the top of the next hour. But right now, going to end it there and get to that top of the hour break. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
No crashes on your borderland freeways. Accident-free right now. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound, Vinton down to Thorne, 15-minute delays. The connector ramp on I-10 westbound at Trans Mountain still closed for road work onto the I-10 eastbound. 17-minute delays eastbound Montana from McRae out to Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
With the Autio app riding shotgun, every road trip is an adventure.
Autio is my traveling companion. It's educational, entertaining, funny. It makes the drive come to life.
The Autio app automatically plays you stories about the natural wonders, local legends, and fascinating histories outside your car window, with over 10,000 unique stories from coast to coast.
I've learned more about my hometown from the Autio app than I did growing up here.
Autio, the perfect companion for your next road trip. Learn more at autio.com.
Getting a news feed on your phone while driving
makes driving more difficult. This is dangerous.
Getting a news feed without a computer or mobile device?
It would be impossible.
Unless, of course, you get your live news feeds at the top and bottom of the hour.
It's easy.
Traffic and weather all day.
It's as simple as that.
Trending stories tend to change.
Every minute of every day.
Twice an hour, we'll feed your curiosity.
Stay informed. Shouldn't we listen? They're hungry.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, September 22nd and 23rd.
The most unforgettable weekend of music on the planet.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Federal prosecutors plan to indict Hunter Biden by September 29th on gun charges, according to a court filing. Lisa Taylor reports.
The president's son had agreed to a plea deal that would have spared him jail time for allegedly purchasing a gun as a drug user. The deal had Hunter Biden entering a diversion program, but it fell apart in court in July. And it also included tax evasion charges, but it's unclear where those stand. Tom Winter on what Special Counsel Weiss will now have to decide.
Whether or not indict using misdemeanor charges or whether there'll be felony charges. And I think based on what they've telegraphed, it's possible that felony charges could be in the offing.
Former President Trump says he would be willing to take the witness stand in his own defense if his criminal cases go to trial. During a radio interview, Trump said he would absolutely look forward to testifying. He added, however, that he believes the cases will get dismissed. The former president has pleaded not guilty in the 4 cases against him in New York, Georgia, Florida, and Washington, D.C. There was a sighting of escaped killer Danilo Cavalcante last night in Pennsylvania.
Team searched the area for hours, but were unable to locate him.
Pennsylvania State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens tried to reassure the residents of Chester County he will be caught. Cavalcante's been on the run for nearly a week after he escaped from the Chester County prison. Tropical Storm Lee has now turned into a Category 1 hurricane in the Atlantic. The storm's expected to strengthen into an extremely dangerous major hurricane by early Saturday morning. The storm's not expected to reach the U.S. A federal judge is ordering the state of Texas to remove the so-called floating border wall. The Justice Department is suing to get the system of buoys out of the Rio Grande. There are allegations that Texas is violating international law. The buoys were launched over the summer near Eagle Pass, Texas. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Marvel actor Jonathan Majors' domestic violence trial in New York City that was set for today is being adjourned.
The judge rescheduled Majors' trial for Friday, September 15th. This after the actor's lawyers found deficiencies in the prosecution's certificate of compliance. The 33-year-old Creed III actor appeared virtually in Manhattan criminal court to face misdemeanor harassment and assault charges. He's accused of attacking his then-girlfriend last March, but claims it was she who attacked him. If convicted, Majors could go to jail for a year. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
You may not want to throw away your expired at-home COVID tests. The FDA is extending the expiration dates of many at-home COVID test products, just as the U.S. sees a new surge in cases. From fake Taylor Swift tickets to promises of student loan forgiveness, scammers are tapping into the latest trend to target consumers. Erin Real reports.
Some of the top fraud schemes seen this summer are the following. Taylor Swift fans eager to buy tickets may have found they were conned. Summer vacationers finding the rental listings for both short and long-term stays were not legitimate, and borrowers hoping for student loan relief falling prey to scams. Common warning signs include aggressive advertising language, big promises, and requests for login or other confidential information. Experts say the best defense is a good offense. Keep your personal information to yourself and do not share your address, social security, or credit card numbers unless you are certain the website or app is legitimate.
There's a strike looming for musicians of the New York City Ballet Orchestra. The New York City Musicians Union overwhelmingly voted to authorize a strike as they continue to negotiate with ballet management for a fair contract. The union said its members took a pay cut after the pandemic, but ticket sales are now back to pre-pandemic levels. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Yeah! Text the nationwide keyword festival to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's festival to 200-200.
Win your way to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival and $1,000.
Oh, that is great. You'll be there.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Brought to you by T-Mobile. Experience more of the music you love with the record-breaking 5G network. T-Mobile customers can unlock VIP benefits at the festival all weekend long. It's better over here. See why at T-Mobile.com/SEEWHY.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 5-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Hey guys, this is Andrew J. Polk. My not-so-secret way of looking and feeling great is going to Hammer and Nails, El Paso's newest men's grooming destination, with everything about your personal grooming, privacy, and comfort in mind. Ready with your favorite drink at the door. They offer everything from head to toe, hair, beard, mustache, and hand and foot services. You want to find out about their full services and their great memberships. Of course, find them online, hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammer, A-N-D, nailsgrooming.com. And I'll see you there.
Why is iHeartRadio the #1 streaming radio app? Free music.
Free live radio stations from all over the country.
Free podcasts.
Free playlists.
Free contests. Free artist radio stations.
Commercial-free stations. It's free. I love iHeartRadio. Join the millions of music, radio, and podcast fans on the #1 streaming radio app now.
iHeartRadio.
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 Free never sounded so good.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there, as is one of the better ways to do so throughout the show, including interesting and kind of random questions here, but we'll get to more of those here in just a second. Because, of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. No dealer markups, no addendums. Find them, of course, at 950 Crockett Street, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And a lot of conversation going on, and of course those phone lines full up at the moment, but keep that number handy if you want to add your 2 cents that way. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And a lot of people, of course, those dropping, particularly over on the Facebook page, dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate, including Amber Banda, Ed Clora, Sean Gardner, RJ, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Ida Beza Gardner, and Monica Cervantes, among others. So do appreciate that. And other comments coming in, including semi-random ones like Mondo Moncada asking if I've ever interviewed the author William Forstchen. I've never actually heard his name said out loud. So simple answer, no. But if you're talking about the author of 1 Second After, I do believe that his most recent one come out, right? The 5 years after or 5 years later. I actually think I got that one on order myself here. Have read it previously, and it's informed some of the way I think about some things. But yeah, if you want to haven't had the opportunity. Let's just put it that way, but maybe a little bit out of bound here. So yeah, being familiar with him, but haven't got the opportunity to interview him particularly. But something a little bit closer to home, of course, here is that didn't mean to do too deep of a tease on it, but the way the show worked out today, that have gotten into our inbox from, let's see what the account actually was, from Recall Cassandra is the email account with a press release with a notice of intent to recall City Rep Cassandra Hernandez to be filed with City Clerk Friday at 10 a.m. Specifically noting that, just to quote directly from the first line of it, saying that Irene Armendariz Jackson, resident of City District 3, has assembled a team of more than 35 volunteers who are absolutely committed to recalling City Rep Cassandra Hernandez from office, that they intend to file this, specifically the notice of intent with the City Clerk on Friday, and specifically that the team will then have 60 days to gather 4,884 signatures of District 3 registered voters, 20% of the number of voters who cast ballots from the District 3 race in November 3rd of 2020, one of the most recent ones. So that's an interesting one. That's an interesting move. I was aware of, at the very least, concepts towards it, or rumblings of it. So the group actually wanting to move forward with this, and familiar names for some involved with it. For those who have been listening to a long time of local politics, just want to at least mention that one. Haven't gotten specifically response from the city rep on this one, but that is one that has been coming in. So let's go ahead and get to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call full up at the moment, but just keep it handy, 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. I know this is not Friday, but I just wanted to speak to Frankie today and kind of respond to some of the things he said. Frankie, for your information, under Bidenomics, 34 million people, or 10% of Americans, are food insecure, including 9 million children. But don't worry, under Bidenomics, Americans are doing great. I hope you are enjoying your beer.
Fair enough. Appreciate the brief response there.
Okay. And what was, I came in at the end of the conversation about what was happening with the gas prices. What are they saying? There was some
lack of availability, some facility shutdowns, both immediately in our area and some of the major contributors to the area. So very similar, though there also has the kind of deeper question. The reason that we kind of revisited that today is part of it with, again, our El Paso Inc. Editor Robbie Gray in studio with us on the idea of why does gas prices always seem to be a little bit higher in El Paso. One thing that we didn't even bring up in this, but does seem relevant to me, is the way that we have different grades that are usually available here as well. So we go about complexity, some different grades, the way that it ends up working out the octane levels of it between your regular mid-grade and premium, slightly different than usually attributed to the altitude for our region, is why it's sold that way.
Okay. I'm just reading an article from El Paso Matters. They say the price of oil swelled in July after Saudi Arabia and Russia chose to cut oil production to reduce supply on the market, keep energy prices from falling.
Yep, and
the price for a barrel of West Texas crude was raised 15% from a month ago, and the highest price for West Texas crude since April. Also, U.S. stocks of gasoline today are 3% lower than a year ago, and slightly below the 5-year average. In U.S. strategic petroleum reserve contained almost 347 million barrels of oil in storage, 27% lower than this time last year, after Joe Biden last summer opted to sell a chunk of the U.S. oil reserves to boost supply and lower prices for drivers at the pump. And according to this, analysts at the Austin-based energy analytics firm Empress last month said they expect a barrel of crude to reach $100 in the fourth quarter of this year, as record high global oil demand and insufficient supply growth combined to boost oil prices. So I think it's a little bit more having to do with Bidenomics and what Biden is doing to our oil supply.
No, certainly getting your.
That seems like what it says in this article.
Oh no, certainly understand that, and that would be a very much idea of the the current floor of where it is. But the reason that El Paso was even beyond the bounds of what the increases have been seeing, getting near and at $4 a gallon, as some were talking about there, is because of those particular squeezes. And like Mondo Moncada saying, my nearby DK Alon service station has been out of gasoline for almost 1 week. So that's why some of the particular crunches in our area can be seen. But yeah, no, the prices have definitely been going up in general, as is, again, always kind of a feature towards the Labor Day holiday. And also, of course, the Saudis' position previously, OPEC in general, they had more of a concern for market share than it was individual, price per unit. And they seem content at this point in time to just be raking it in, regardless of how much is the full demand is.
Well, it doesn't seem like this is going to go down anytime soon, and it may be kind of a bump right now because of what's happening locally. But sure, overall, this is a problem that Biden has created by making our oil supply less and less and less.
I mean, it definitely doesn't play well with individual voters, and the idea of, well, I paid more of your. I know there are a lot of people out there that say benchmark what was it at certain point in times, and a lot of social media posts that go along those lines of, hey, remember when it was this? So I'm sure this will keep being aligned. All I'm gonna say is that don't be putting those stickers, for not you necessarily, Ben, but for anyone, don't be putting those stickers back on the pumps themselves. All you're doing is causing more work for the hapless pump attendants who have to go and scrape it off. Like, if you want to make a point about it, make a point about it, but just leave the people and their pumps alone.
Yeah. Anyway, Frankie, I hope that might give you a little information about what the plight of a lot of people are doing. You may be able to buy as much beer as you want and everything else, but there's a lot of people really suffering under Bidenomics. And I hope you'll take that under consideration. Yep. Stay well, stay safe. God bless, and let's go, Brandon.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we do have to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about these issues and what's going on and certainly affecting us here in the borderland. But again, if you want to get on that line, that number to do so, if you're quick with it anyway, may have already just filled up, but that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Mazer Security Alarms, providing safety, security, and peace of mind, regardless of where you need it, at home, at the office, or anything. You got something precious to keep safe, secure, and again, off the top of your mind, because when they come to their training and experience, more than 4 decades of experience here in town, and they're licensed and, again, very well trained install techs can, of course, come out and consult with you to get your free quote and find out what they can do for you. Again, $0 down options and low payments are available. So you give them a call and find out what it can do for you, like they have at our offices here. Give them a call at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso police responding to an accident reported eastbound Montana at Geronimo. Whatever it is slowing traffic all the way back to the 10. In the lower valley, eastbound Border Highway at Zaragoza exit, disabled vehicles on the left shoulder. Global Reach is slow southbound approaching Montana with 15-minute delays. And it's slow I-10 eastbound Vinton down to Thorne with a 9-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
For one night, the tables are turned, the roles reversed. Noche de Estrellas. Thursday, September 28th at the Plaza Hotel, Pioneer Park. Marathon presents Noche de Estrellas, a new fundraiser benefiting the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. This reverse gala provides a remarkable experience for food bank clients and those who wholeheartedly support the cause to reduce hunger. Noche de Estrellas. For sponsorship details, call 915-224-1306. Online at elpasoansfightinghunger.org.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Or you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated US-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to lifelock.com.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS is raising the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes, and further rate hikes are expected. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. So if you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. In fact, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788. 800-953-1788.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the pre-reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of interesting comments coming in over there, including Marky Mandingo calling for the Hour of Rage. I'm just saying, if that's going to go any way I can imagine something that like that being called going, we're probably going to do that off air. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I appreciate the idea of it, but there's a lot more and a lot maybe better ways. But the Joker Rodeo, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Just let's just say certain purposes best served in other ways, maybe associated with the show. I don't know. Maybe we'll start a Patreon or something like that and have it be one of those accessible things. Probably need to do some merch before too long, honestly. But other things on Willie Jenkins declaring this Wealthy Wednesday. Definitely a $1 million state of mind, I guess you could put it that way. And also, if you get focused on word choice beyond the arguments being made, well, something about only being no boring things, only boring people. I don't know if that applies here. But in any case, a lot of other commentary coming in. Richard Janicek mentioning, anyone watch the ABC show The Last Ship about a world pandemic? I did. I watched a few seasons of that. Interesting idea. I'm always interested in, like, alternate or speculative future history. But I'll just say that one maybe hit a little bit too close to I started watching it like right before 2020. And I think it was in a few seasons already at that point. And then, maybe just hitting a little bit too close to home for me to keep up with it. Maybe I'll go back to it. But in any case, a lot of other commentary coming in. And of course, those phone lines full up at the moment. But again, that number to call, keep it handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Marco in Central on the line with us here right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Let me fix this real quick. All right, sorry.
That's all right.
So I want to kind of touch on comments that a lot of your listeners have as they'll pop up on YouTube, like the last, what's going on, or they'll have their comments, right? So whenever I talk about the downtown area and how I want to revitalize the downtown area, there's always the comments, why downtown?
Sure.
Downtown's dead. Nobody lives downtown. And so kind of today I wanted to focus on the downtown area and the importance of the downtown area.
Sure.
So I want everybody to know, like, just right here where my family's restaurant's at, I'm on the corner of 3rd and Oregon, okay? Right here, you have Sacred Heart Church.
Mm.
You have 3 buildings that have been up since 1890.
Mm.
And you walk down here, it's just historic in general. But it's one thing if they're just buildings that are up, right? But these buildings have been functionally homes since then.
Mm.
For over 100 years, right? More than that now. I mean, it's crazy. And so people live in the downtown area, down here in the barrio area, but it's a microcosm just in the downtown area of affluency. Because if you go to the other side of Paisano,
Mm-hmm.
going towards the plaza, well, guess what? You have brand new condominium high rises. You actually have the HUD housing right there, the home structure, which is where
sure.
the blue light is.
Mm-hmm.
That's an entire complex for people that are disabled and older people.
Sure.
And so there is a necessity. Yeah, like it's cool that there are many grocery stores downtown, like Mata's Produce, which is fantastic. You know, I shop there. Anybody who wants to do carnitas on the weekend, I always tell them go get some marinated steaks on there. They're the best. But we need more than that downtown.
Mm.
And again, it's the rethinking of the downtown area. What can I do to make it better? How can I bring business down to the downtown area? And it's not just thinking outside of the box, but it's getting the people who make a difference, who have the money to think out of the box as well. Again, like, I don't know why you would want to have a laundromat in a historic building like the Crest building. That, again, having a business in the downtown area that's open till 11 o'clock, whichever it would be, whether it's Walmart or Target. I use those two because they're a national chain, and they have the most easiest time getting products to wherever they would need. I don't know of any other chain because it's not like we could be like, oh, well, Woolworth still exists. I don't even think they exist anymore, you know. I know the Crest Corporation's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Sears really doesn't do what they used to do. I don't know if you remember right there where the police station is in Five Points. That used to be a Sears. Most people don't even remember that. And then in the downtown area, right next to the plaza, where you have the Mills building, well, that used to be a little mall. Like, there used to be a lot of shopping centers. There was like a shopping center inside. It was like a mini mall, so there were stores in there. And so, you know, being 49, I remember the downtown area a lot. A lot of things happened down here.
Sure.
And so my whole concern is always this. We could say, oh, why we focus on the downtown area? Nobody lives down there. And that's central thinking to where you live. I don't know where those people live, obviously. They might think, oh, well, we're on the east side. You should focus on the east side. And I'm like, El Paso's been focusing on the east side. The biggest center of just civilians living in a concentrated area is right there by Joe Battle, Target. I mean, that area is, it's popping.
No, that's true.
And it's fantastic. And so there's no need for help in El Paso going towards the east side. In maybe the northeast side, we could maybe help do something in that area to promote some of the growth out there because of the military. But they do a great job themselves. Like they have a shopping center inside of the military complex itself. And they have great stores in there. I tell everybody, if you get an opportunity, go there, shop, help the store owners out in there. I mean, it's a great little shopping center. But again, focusing back into the downtown area, the downtown area has so much opportunity. So how can we refocus to make it better, more open later at night, make it easier to get food to this area? And I hate using words like food desert and stuff like that.
Sure.
But we definitely need more ways to get products to the downtown area for people, because I guess the argument would be, well, what about all the mom and pop places? But the mom and pop places existed even when you had Woolworth, Crest. There's always been this separation in this city, at least, between the mom and pop and even having the big stores next to them. And it doesn't. And I'm going to tell you this: I've been to many places around the world, many cities around the world. That doesn't happen everywhere. El Paso is a very unique place where, in general, Hispanics enjoy the affluency of independence, and so many Hispanics have their own businesses. And again, right now, anybody thinking of opening up a business, or maybe in the next couple of years, Stanton Street has a lot of buildings that are open. I know once I get into office and we start working on the downtown area, making the El Paso Street into a Fairmont area that would be closed off. There would be no traffic. It would only be pedestrians. I know this probably comes to a shock to a lot of people. You would still have the cross streets that vehicles could be able to travel. But my intent is to close that street down and make it a pedestrian walkway, an outdoor mall type, because there's so much potential downtown, and we already have so many roadways in the downtown area. Literally just closing off one street to help the flow of pedestrians concentrate the amount of commercial that is in the downtown area and help it grow only helps expand the tourism in the area, helping, again, say we could get that project off going towards, what was the street again? Going towards across Mexico. I think we talked about that last time. I said it was 16 de septiembre, but that's not what it's called.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that again, but I think it ends up being the one that does.
It's oh my God, what is it? I don't want to say Porfirio Diaz, but it's one of those.
It's Avenida Benito Juarez.
Benito Juarez, ándale. That's it. You know, we could. There's no reason why the governor of Juarez can't complete that project on the other side and do the tarp over there. There's so many bars in that area that are historic bars. I mean, look, everybody, I don't know if you know, again, I'm 49. Some of my favorite memories of going to Juarez when I was younger was going to the XO, to the Tequila Derby, the Superior Bar. I remember going and getting sandwiches over there at Fred's Rainbow Bar. So it's that kind of a feeling that I want to bring back to the downtown area, but to the city in general. We got to make it more inviting for people, and maybe having those conversations with our partners across the way. How can we make Juarez safe for tourists, for El Pasans? Because, you know, we can make it safe for people from Juarez to come over here and enjoy our city. How can we help them make their city better?
I mean, there are important considerations, and particularly on the idea of the shutting down any streets. I know that often goes antithetical to a lot of modern urban planning, but there's a lot of conversations I'm aware have been happening kind of nationally, even internationally, about the idea of reclaiming areas, because one of the arguments that comes out about that is, where are the places that people visit? Where are the places that people want to go to and, spend time in? And often the remark about, oh, isn't it so nice here, often being a idea of walkability, of not having to take, personal transit everywhere, or having, sufficient public transit to be able to get to that part of it. And I think that's at least part of the idea that went into like the downtown trolley, which is its whole own separate subject. But the idea of making it more viable is an interesting, and I would argue admirable one, if a little bit. I mean, the devil is always in the details, as it is with any of these things here. But I will say that particularly on the whole downtown, I mean, it wasn't always the case that no one lived downtown. And you're right, there are now increasing housing options, including at least extended stay hotels is another way to look at it. But I will say that the idea of having more actual housing, like Electricity, the one that I'm thinking of with that sign downtown, I believe that is residential, among other things. But those possibilities, I've kind of argued this in the past, that El Paso's downtown, it kind of developed, or really came to be. I mean, certainly there are buildings that exist, before the turn of the previous century, but a lot of the major development and the basically layout of the way it is now happened in that kind of awkward period at the end of, there was a horse watering fountain in downtown El Paso until the 1940s, for crying out loud. And so it kind of in that awkward period of the end of horse or other like vehicle transportation being more outside of the grasp of the everyday person, and so the trolleys as they originally existed, and between the true advent of the personal automobile, they're coming back, and the whole suburb revolution that happened after the end of World War II and into the 50s, 60s, etc. So that's the kind of the major bugaboo for downtown is parking, because there are not a lot of buildings that have integrated parking into themselves versus your New York cities, which have had a lot of investment into it, sure, but of putting the underground parking garages without affecting necessarily the existing buildings. And that's one of the reasons why up until currently, even maybe still currently could be argued, there was a lot of push to see buildings demolished and have not even necessarily parking structures built, but surface level parking lots, which frustrates me to no end, because it's great for having a previously possibly functional building, just a parking lot. Yeah, that's definitely a better economic incentive, but that's one of the frustrations that I do feel people have. And also the continued recalcitrance, I feel like, of El Pasoans to pay for parking. I know people who go way the hell out of their way just to try to find anywhere near the closest free parking spot, but that's just one of those realities that you kind of gotta end up dealing with. So the point is that I'm coming at here is that downtown and the focus on it is certainly a possibility. It's not always been the case that no one lived there, and it would take redevelopment possibilities with it, though we also do have, I do want to note, having some in the comments saying that Northeast needs more focus as well, and feeling like the redheaded stepchild of El Paso. So that might be one to consider as well.
I totally agree. But the funniest thing, though, is, like, again, I said, the downtown area is a historic district. Look at the other idea that I have. How can we help move the Wells Fargo, incentivize them, maybe in the new downtown area development, give them a building? But again, in my opinion, that Wells Fargo building as a city building is perfect. It would embody everything that your average citizen needs. And another thing that we could also work on, expanding on the project with the trolleys that exist. Part of the reason that I brought up the idea of doing the tunnel underneath the mountain, calling it what do you call it, a Suez Canal level project, is who could we invite that is philanthropist, that thinks outside of the box? Those are projects that, like, Elon Musk is engaged in electromagnetic systems.
And the boring company,
Why would that be important to get trains to travel underneath the ground from one end to another? What's not in itself is it's clean, number one, but it allows for new technologies to emerge from there. Imagine having El Paso, the main center, that's a mag driver that launches products into space for future projects. Those are the things that we should think of. That's why it's important to think out of the box. I understand El Pasoans are like, well, we like our city the way it is. I love El Paso the way it is too. But guess what? There comes a point in time, especially now that, what my biggest dream was? I used to love the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. And I thought, man, when we get to that point, staying at the Hilton in space is going to be rad.
I'll just put it this way, that, sure, I like El Paso the way it is, though I always think that things can be done to improve our situation, improve the things going on for the people who live here. I'll just put it this way when it comes to the idea of, well, we don't want it to change. There is one type of place that does not change, that remains the same, and that plenty of people do flock to, but that no one lives in. And those are called ruins. So just saying, the idea of is a further persuasive one of either change, adapt, or die, if you want to go the social or, I guess, developmental Darwinism that comes along with it. And if we don't have that aspect of it, again, ruins are great to visit, but again, no one lives there is the way I kind of think about that.
I agree, Andrew. Again, everybody have a beautiful afternoon. I love you all. Marco for mayor. Let's look to the future.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too, brother. Have a beautiful afternoon.
All right, and with that, we'll go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls on the line, squeezing what we can as we're getting towards rounding the bend towards the end of this program here. But we do have more phone lines available. Again, if you want to call in and add your 2 cents, again, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki. The lawyer for the mother of the 3-year-old who drowned at an El Paso water park in May said that the El Paso district attorney should be prosecuting the lifeguards in connection to the death of the boy rather than the mother. Ryan McLeod, who's representing Jessica Weaver, the mother of the boy, spoke about his client being charged. Weaver's right now being charged with injury to a child. She was taken into custody for extradition on August 30th in Indiana. All appointments at driver's license offices across the state have been canceled today due to a software outage. The Texas Department of Public Safety says it's part of an ongoing system upgrade that happened over Labor Day. Anyone with appointments on Wednesday will have to reschedule for another day. The license system outage is the second large-scale failure to affect the agency in 2 weeks. Tickets for the iconic Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl are now on sale. It's happening December 29th with the game kickoff set for 12 p.m. The Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl is one of the longest-standing traditions in college football, dating back to 1935. With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz DeWicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound starting to slow down through downtown from Dallas out to the Hunter Viscount exit with 13-minute delays. Slow on the I-10 eastbound from the Upper Valley and Vinton down to Thorne is an 8-minute delay. Traffic is bumper to bumper approaching Montana southbound on Global Reach with an 11-minute delay. And an earlier accident reported eastbound Montana at Geronimo. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The heat rolls on as we move through the end of the week. Partly cloudy skies for our Thursday, high around 103 degrees. Partly cloudy skies for your Friday, high around 102. As we look at your Saturday, partly cloudy with a high around 101. The good news is, as we look ahead to next week, by Tuesday into Wednesday, we could see highs in the upper 80s to lower 90s. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom blinds, shades, and shutters at prices less than big box retailers with free shipping and free samples. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
What does the Affordable Connectivity Program sound like? It sounds like a student doing their homework online.
If X equals 4.
Eligible households save $30 a month on internet. Like the sound of that? The ACP. Sign up, connect, and save at getinternet.gov.
Every day, you breathe in thousands of microscopic germs, allergens, and viruses. Don't let these invisible invaders make breathing through your nose impossible. Flush them out with Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril around the back of the nose and out the other nostril, helping flush out all the nasty things that make you miserable. Nearly 4 million people use Navage to breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier. People like Cindy, a verified Navage user who writes, "I've had such awful nasal congestion for the last couple of years. I bought Navage and OMG, I can breathe again. I love this thing. Goodbye, Neti Pot. Hello, Navage." End quote. If you suffer from sinus congestion, allergies, or snoring, then Navage is the safe, drug-free solution you've been looking for. Navage is at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and Navage.com. Navage. Navage. Clean nose. Healthy life.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the program. Of course, at this point during the show, we do have those phone lines open and available, squeezing in what we can before the end of the show. Of course, that number to use, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, and lines are available, but squeezing in what we can. And of course, a lot of comments coming in, including Ed Clore commenting about the request from the EPA for those fuel standards, basically the difference between summer and winter fuel production. That has been going through, and part of why there may be some things changing. A lot of remembrances from people about different venues and areas, like RJ saying, remember Q and the Q and Senior Frog. And it was okay. I'm getting some criticism about talking about things, but I'll just say anyone willing to put themselves out there and talk about ideas, particularly about local ones, I mean, that's kind of more or less what we exist here for. So, yeah, and if I have a foible, it's about maybe entertaining a point for a little bit longer than is necessarily reasonable. But a lot of other things, like in some response, even including Bernadette Bandicole saying, that's absurd. Why would we want to cut into the mountain? I mean, I get it. There were, I want to say back in like more Cold War era, the idea of like putting major bomb underground shelters under the Franklin Mountains. Don't think that that did not come to fruition that I'm at least at all aware of. Unless you're talking about just the mine shafts that exist in there. But I mean, the Trans Mountain itself was a cut through the mountain. It went over what was I forget the name of the person who was shot there that it was named after back in the Old West days. But yeah, it was a pass known as that. I'll have to refresh my memory on that one. But in any case, other commentary coming in, including on the ideas of different possibilities and ways to deal with it. But Renato Rivera saying, accept the fact that El Paso was a destination city because of the cheap party life in Juarez. We are a pass-through city. If people really want to relocate here, it would be because of the good things it would have to offer. I mean, there's an argument. I mean, particularly when it comes to performances from the past, that we're about halfway between, San Antonio and Phoenix, or more likely points east, and then like LA, a good stopover point. So there's an argument to be made that, particularly when just bus travel was the only reasonable way that bands or acts were getting around, that was the reason we had stopovers. But I would say there's maybe other reasons nowadays. But Mondo Moncada saying, yes, why would anyone want to climb a mountain? Somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I do suspect. Anyway, getting to those phone lines again. We do have with us right now Frankie and Messi on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Wow, this is hilarious. By the Robert's rules of debate, I heard Ben commenting on my comment from last night. And he says 10% of the total American population is suffering terribly. Well, hey, Ben. Hey, I don't care whatever civilized society you are in. I don't go back 50,000 years. There will be always people that are on the downside of economic circumstances. And to say that's Joe Biden's problem because 34 million people on your average number is his fault, Donnie Dotard would have been on 134 million. So give it up. But I appreciate your comment. Well, let me say something. I just heard Marco Antonio Contreras running for mayor. By the way, Marco, I got up on your Facebook page. I saw your face. I saw some of your friends and everybody like that. But I got to say something. Marco, I mean, you got the right thought process, but you're kind of like, I almost want to mention, you're like Don Quixote against the windmills. And you don't even have Sanchez. Yeah, I mean, you're going out there.
Sancho Panza, I think.
The circumstances where you're going to run for mayor against all these heavyweights out there, and you just don't have the heft behind you. You're going out with the attitude, everything is wonderful, everything is just kumbaya. You got to come up with something else, Marco. You're not going to make it just going out there and saying, I could do this, I could do that, I'm a wonderful person, everybody out there in El Paso is wonderful, and we're all going to be kumbaya. That's my point.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite going about it that way, like everything kumbaya. It's bringing up some big ideas that may not be feasible within even anyone's term limits within elected office here in El Paso. But I will say this. Okay, if I were to run for mayor of El Paso, which, by the way, I am super not running for mayor of El Paso, but if I were to, the first, second, and last points that I would be pursuing would be a get out the vote effort, because I still hold the supposition there's no real way to test this without doing it, which, again, I am not doing. But what I would be doing is just focusing on getting people voting, because, again, I think that if you just were to particularly get to in some of our recent elections, for example, the 20% of voters in a particular area that, again, recall effort I'm aware of, the 20% they have to get of about being 4,000. If you could get that kind of a margin change within any particular district, okay, city council seat would maybe be a better way to actually test this hypothesis. But just a get out the vote effort and get people, again, from some of our most recent elections, the 90% of registered voters that didn't even stumble their way into a ballot box, that would be the way I would go about it, I have to say. And I mean, you got to have some ideas to back that up, but for beginning, middle, and ending with a get out the vote effort, because anything else, I got to say, I don't see it working out unless you're just, you got the name recognition, and there has been a lot of that has tended to dominate the top of ballot issues in our region. I'll certainly agree with you on that.
No, wait a minute. If I understand you correctly, relative to Marco, is that he's got to force some kind of an issue to where more El Pasoans vote compared to previous types of elections. Is that what you just said?
That's what I would do, and if I was advising any campaign, which again I am not, that would be the beginning, middle, and end of what I would say. The 3 points of action: get out the vote, get out the vote, get out the vote. Any questions? That would be the summary of my presentation.
Okay, I'm a big fan of that. Relative to Marco, and listen, I saw his Facebook page. He seems like a really nice person. He really does. I mean, he's got the right ideas. But to go out there is, in my estimation, Andrew, is go out there and say more people need to vote. That's good. But wait a minute. We are talking about Marco pushing himself forward as mayor. But where's his platform? Other than saying these great pie in the sky, wonderful things he wants to do, he has no underlying support apparatus. Nothing. He does. Like I said, you look at Don Quixote. Even Don Quixote had Sanchez as a buddy. I mean, he doesn't have Sanchez, for crying out loud. So what do you think of that?
I think you're referring there to Sancho Panza, but I mean, yes, the immediate supporters along with him. I mean, that is a critical part of it. Ignoring the apparatus that goes along with it. It doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world or all the best ideas in the world if you don't have the support to go along with it. Again, politics does not care about your feelings or how fervently you believe in something. It cares what you've done to put them into effect, to effectuate your ideas. And without that, it is, well, I would agree with you there, pie in the sky. So, again, anyone considering any elected office in our area would certainly encourage them to, develop the team around it, because without that and the ability to get out the vote, do those parts of it, I mean, again, there have been many great efforts of pith and moment that lose the cause of action without all of that groundwork and put into it.
Well, I want to say something. And I'm serious as a heart attack. I'm serious as a New Mexico heart attack here, right? Marco, I mean, I'm a sincere Frankie. I can't vote for you your upcoming election for mayor. But I want to tell you something. You remind me of a gladiator that shows up in the arena, and they gave you a rusty little sword, no armor, and you're confronted with a professional gladiator that's going to just chop you up into little pieces because you didn't get the background help that you needed to confront what you're going to be looking at to prepare yourself to become a mayor. Now, having said that, one last thing here. I heard that Befuddled Ben going on about his last ending comment about, let's go Brandon. Blah, 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 blah. That's sorry, whatever. Ben, I would like it for you to say, let's go Amber, the great producer of KTSM 690 and Andrew's program. Why don't you try that? That's my ending comment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll just speak on behalf of Amber for a moment that you might not want to be dragged into that part of the conversation, but appreciate it. And thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it, Frankie.
Okay, Andrew, take care.
All right, I think we can squeeze in one more quick call. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us here. Raul, we got about a minute or two.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Hey, Marco, so you love everybody? That sounds like politician talk to me. I don't love everybody. I don't love Trump or the sycophants and lemmings in his cult. I love the people who have been good to me throughout my life, and not people I don't know or know what evil deeds they may have committed, like the January 6th Capitol attackers. And a tunnel under the Franklin Mountain, that sounds crazy. Leave the mountain alone. Hey, Ben, Trump had 4 years to make America great. He failed again and didn't. Ben, poverty didn't start start with Biden and wasn't eradicated by Trump. And as far as oil prices, there's no such thing as a free energy market with monopolies and petrostates like most of OPEC's members who control 40% of the world's oil supply. They like Republicans who deny anthropogenic global climate change and are anti-regulation of their industry. So they probably raise oil prices around election time to help traitorous moron Trump if he's the Republicans' presidential nominee. Now, Trump early in his administration announced a ban on all Muslims coming into America before making his first foreign visit as president to Saudi Arabia. And then Jared got $2 billion from them to manage without any experience in managing money. Looks like a payoff to me and many observers. Negligent mother whose child tragically drowned at a city pool and sued the city for $1 million for negligence, and the city retaliating by having her jailed. Solution: offer her to drop the case in return for her dropping her suit against the city. So tragic. None of that is going to bring that child back. UTEP accreditation is being questioned under Trump supporter Heather Wilson, who Trump appointed Secretary of the Air Force, and who most UTEP faculty and many students didn't want. She didn't speak Spanish and had no connection with the university in the city. Their opinions weren't taken into account and were trumped by Texas border regents Paul Foster and Woody Hunt, who are probably Republicans in a predominantly Democratic city. I favor hiring locally. She should either start offering athletic scholarships to local athletes rather than recruiting out-of-towners who historically have not been able to deliver winning seasons, with about two-thirds of the stadium being empty for most home games. And hey, JR promotes pendejadas. Have you seen the video of Trump bragging of having sex in common with his daughter, who he had been grooming from the time she was an adolescent to sit on his lap, in bed, in a short dress, with her legs spread, kissing dirty, debauched daddy, and twerking him in public? Andrew, why do you allow Trump promotes pendejadas to defame and libel the President of the United States, but threaten to ban Eric?
So let's make a very big difference between, again, elected officials, people who are in office, of whom there is not exactly a completely different standard, but basically there's not a whole lot of cases or water that'll be held in court for someone saying, I don't like this person, I think they are a so-and-so if they're an elected official, versus someone laying very specific attacks against someone who is in the area and is doing nothing more than calling into a radio show. So if you can't get the difference between that, and again, for someone who levies attacks against an elected official, I mean, sure, there's whole things about proof, evidence, what the libel and slander process is that we're not going to be able to get into in this particular part of it. But let's just say it this way, that if you're wanting to comment on an elected official, yeah, that's pretty much always, it's not exactly germane, but going to be something that is part of the public sphere. And if any elected official can't handle that, good luck to them. I don't expect them to be in that position very long. But again, if it's something that is going to threaten the potential future of this show, if any one of these elected officials want to come after this, frankly, bring it the hell on. I will talk about that forever. So you appreciate the point in the call on the local aspects anyway, for what it's worth. Don't clock the other slaps getting in there in the meantime here. But tell you what, I think we're actually out of time here for this program for today, so we'll just have to end it there. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Tomorrow on the show, going to be having another extended interview, particularly about some of those new laws, particularly how it affects certain segments of on-the-road populations, but we're out of time here for this one. Again, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when you're out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.